My name is Jacob Clevenger, and this is Transgender Women Within Athletics. Sports take a huge part within society. This can range from small children to grown adults. From a young age, this teaches discipline, responsibility, and rules, which are normally meant to be followed. As children grow older, the elite will rise to the top, and some will even become idols. A prime example of this is Serena Williams. She is a great inspiration to the Black community with her devotion to the sport, and it really inspires others to show how powerful a woman can be and how she is just an idol to the world with her total of 23 Grand Slam wins, and it really shows how she is one of the best in the sport. So how did this happen? This originated from rules. Certain rules are put into place to maintain fair game. But what do these rules do? They separate people with unfair advantages, such as in wrestling, you have one person who's bigger than the other. They are separated into different weight classes. When looking at fair play for women, it is proven that the bone mass of men is about 50% more than women's. Overall, men are just slightly larger. Now, of course, there are outliers, and when you're looking at a majority of people, this is proven to be true, that men are naturally built just a little bit differently. But how far can we stretch these rules? To what extent does testosterone affect transgender women within athletics? In the end, I believe that you'll see altering the rules just a little bit to create more fair gameplay would be necessary within high school sports. Now looking at what transgender women go through. It's very difficult to endure. It's very taxing mentally and physically. They're constantly victimized, and it really questions of, is it worth it? Losing testosterone is very different, and it's proven to be effective on the body. But in what ways is it effective? As Doreen Kamira expresses, there is a genetic difference in the brain when looking at testosterone between men and women. You could even relate this back to the times of hunter and gatherers. Men were typically the hunters not because they were bigger and stronger, but because they were better at recognizing geographic location. But when we relate this to modern times, what do men do? They size people up and realize, am I fit enough to fight the next person? When looking at Miriam Abelson's interview of a fight or flight situation with a man, he had to size someone up and realize, am I fit enough to fight this person? And he was put in a situation where his family and friends were being threatened by another man. But in this, he chose not to fight, and the question of why? Well, when he looked at this other man, he realized that he was more masculine and had more testosterone, therefore he would lose the fight. The same thing is happening with sports. There's an unfair playing field when looking at transgender women to women, and it's not because of who they are, but with that little extra testosterone gives them an extra boost. The same things happen with women with excessive androgen. Catherine Henn expresses that women with androgen excess tend to perform better, and then Melanie Newbold with a PhD in bioethics agrees with this by stating people with more testosterone tend to perform a little bit better. This issue needs to be resolved, but how? Wanting fair gameplay is ideal, but how do we do this? We need to look at the rules. When looking at the upper level of sports, such as the Olympics, they normally affect the lower level of sports, such as college. So let's dig deep into the rules and let's see what's put in place. Looking at the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, they came out with a rule in 2011 that stated those who transition from male to female and are eligible to compete in a female category under certain conditions. What are these conditions? Well, first they have to declare their identity as female for at least a minimum of 4 years. Next, they have to have their testosterone levels below 10 nanomoles per liter for at least 12 months prior to competition. So these testings are important because it gives people like Serena Williams and other highly competitive female athletes a chance to become great and idols within society. Furthermore, when looking at the rules, NCAA announced that trans women can play after consuming testosterone-blocking drugs for at least 1 year prior to competition. Additionally, they can also do hormonal therapy treatment, which is proven to lower testosterone. Of course, there are oppositions to this. Some critics might say, Well, how could you allow people like Usain Bolt to compete at all, or other people with freakish abnormalities? Shouldn't they not compete at all? Well, these are just natural talents given to these athletes and given to this person. They shouldn't allow them from competing at a higher level, such as the Olympics or Worlds. In my opinion, I believe that people with performance-enhanced drugs or performance enhancers such as extra testosterone or steroids shouldn't be allowed to compete. Let's consider what trans women have to go through every day. After all, they're human beings and we need to treat them like so. I believe that we shouldn't tear them down and harass them because it just leads to more suicides and deaths. And it's very, very wrong. And what they go through is very scary. Whether they're an athlete or not, they shouldn't have to go through this. We really need to learn who they are as a person and learn who they are on the inside. Continuing on, Theodore Roosevelt described in The Proper Place for Sports that there's a bigger meaning to life. He expressed that the risk is not worth the reward, especially when when you put on with these extra tasks such as being harassed every day. We need to learn to help them grow in life and build character. This is best expressed by Alex Dezerk, who demonstrated the urgent need for cultural acceptance. You cannot get rid of the bullying and harassment until we stop and create a culture of love. So how do we do this? We need to fix this situation. So we need to meet in the middle. We need to have fair game, but we also need to include transgenders within sports. How do we do this? We can do this through testing. Hormonal therapy and testosterone blocking is necessary whenever one tests too high in testosterone levels. But this needs to be implemented more so in high school sports than in the Olympic Committee or even the NCAA, because the NCAA and the Olympic Committee have already taken care of this. But in the end, these rules are put in place to keep people from taking advantage of the system, and they want to give women a fair chance to become great. But when all is said and done, all the credit goes to the transgenders and their journey because it's truly amazing what they've overcome in life. Thank you. These are my works cited. Yeah.
All right, Jacob, a couple of questions. Ready?
Sure.
Sure. Question one. How did you select the strategies that you used to gather your information and conduct your research? And then were those strategies that you used going into the research effective?
My strategies going into this were I've written previous argumentative papers, and so I knew that from the start this was going to be a controversial topic. So I needed to go in and find people like Melanie Newbold with a PhD in bioethics to prove and back up my theories that more testosterone is proved to produce higher performance. And so as long as I have people with a good ethos with them, then I should be able to present my information in a fair and respectful way.
And then second question, what might the real world implications or consequences about your findings be? What are the implications in this community?
The implications in this community and the challenges of this is, it's very real. When you look at this, you're looking at people's lives being put at stake and their happiness. And so when you look at people like where Doreen Kamira talks about their brain difference and how people naturally are built different. And so if you take and deprive their rights of being happy, how does that affect them mentally? And in the real world situation, if we don't allow everybody to compete in some sort of fashion, then it could deprive them of happiness and even lead to suicide.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.